Okay, 3, June 21st, 22, Plan Commission, Mann Brothers Holdings, LLC, at 1003. Ben?
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Lebanon Street here, Ash. Variances that were necessary being in the site is with associated parking. The applicant has worked with NDOT on this. Property, push. And the dumpster is just to the east of the building. Buffers, etc., they are going to provide the back existing, and then all the buffer yard plantings would be additionally they will be on this. That's just real quickly a quick overview, and then also pedestrian access from the main sidewalk on South Lebanon Street to the to this building as well. Technical advisory has some responses to developed already, but there are a couple of items here that I'll just point out. One, they do have the parking lot perimeter, and initially they've got a number of buffer yard, all the required landscaping, the trees on signage. Signage plan, there's have to meet all of the ground sign and wall signs. That signage plan, that is one of the conditions of the approval. This is a black and white imagery unit, brick and ephes, kind of represented by the center part is brick, and then ephes represents site plan or similar. I don't think I pulled that one. Towards South Lebanon Street and ephes along with storefront. So again, it will have a requirements as well of both the neighborhood staff adequately address any remaining City of Lebanon Technical Advisory Committee comments. A signage plan for approval prior to installation of any site signage.
And can you pull that right in, right out on Lebanon, correct?
Correct.
A landscape bed of some sort?
A curved island, if you will. Turning left out.
Okay, perfect.
About that same. We're not talking, there's not going to be any
About a 2 to 3 foot mound. Triangle here that we use to calculate what the area that can't be. We're good from that perspective. It's far enough back. It's not going to cause any issues of people turning out of Ash Street.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Come forward, please.
My name's Adam Dehart. I'm project manager with Keeler Webb Associates. Our offices are located at 486 Gradle Drive, Carmel, Indiana. I'm here this evening with Mann Brothers property. They purchased this property in 2021 with the intent of expanding their convenience store product that they've been working as a project they're going to have in Boone. It is extremely difficult to work something out on this very small size. first to get several different action positions of more access, come up with a plan that works for everybody. I understand Lebanon hopes to be in compliance with their making permit process work that we're doing in the right of way. Haven't taken care of some of it. Problem with coming back and replacing aren't good. You'll this isn't your type convenience store. Trends and the economics of start this store out on a 24-hour their customers are present, plus with the and retail environment, that's about all the coverage. Out well as far as being, we've added the fence, the neighbors, so that in the evening the headlights aren't an issue to the neighbors. Hosted by the church across the street. New commercial buildings being built in the residential. We list in discussion about taking properties. That's convenient to cut through this piece. We do have some comments from making some revisions on all of those. Full intention of, and then we've also made again the utilities are stormwater detention with we would expect that ownership, but there will be two different uses in this part of Lebanon. There will be a demising wall to separate, and while the longer it's community oriented, they'll be a part of the community and keep everything nice for a convenience store and gas at this location. As far as the approval of those conditions, along with the approval of our site to review and approve tonight. It's been sitting vacant for 20 years. The design of the structure is codes, building standards, utility standards.
The board, store, what are you going, the product?
Classic pop drink. It's not going to be a full.
Be any fresh fruit or fresh vegetables? Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll open it up for the name and your address, and you'll have talking only about the, well, not seeing anyone. I guess we'll close the public hearing. For 3.
To approve the development, completing all the TAC comments.
Second, right?
Sleek,
Yes.
Dan Bayshore,
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Hears very well. So especially that microphone. So anybody's going to talk there, just make sure. Next item. '31, it's KMA shop to be located in zone PBC plan.
Together, they're both. Here. All right, so this is a site, if you want to pull up, go ahead and pull up the screen. This is, it was being used as a, applicant is purchasing the site and is going to but we'll walk through, see it a little bit better. 7 Brew is a drive-through only establishment. They're small on this site. Walk up seating, so it's a very here. There's a on top a frontage road, so that's kind of a walk. Well, just like the last one did have a couple of this for these developments, more so than the inside. Okay, with looking trying to. So they did get a series of variants. Walking through then, a little over 500 coffee, and for the a couple all here, but and then zoning to minimum build a little bit to make it, I think, overlay district. So they have overlay district. This doesn't have any interior spaces are required. With no indoor seating, parking lot between here. Last row parking associated with spaces that have been provided, and the foot and cut sheets for the lighting adjacent properties. So there, in addition to the parking and landscaping on this side, and if you landscaping out here, you see there now, are a number based landscaping that you see here around the landscaping. Shows some work with them to get signage. Gives you an idea what the side of the building looks like as well. And so again, just in summary, there they have met all of the materials requirements, architectural requirements of the requirements for the subject site. And that is that they adequately agree any remaining technical advisory committee comments.
The board, only question I have, what would be your hours? What would be your hours of opening?
We open for business at 5.
5 in the morning to 5:30? Okay. All right, any other?
Being a signage plan for approval prior to installation.
We'll pull up a couple things for you here. Certainly the site's going to look familiar because it's right adjacent to the last application we just discussed. Get the right things up here as well. So there's significant land yard, street things around the site, and it also be addressed prior to backs. The parking for a fast food, you discount the 10 space. 5 spaces remaining for the taco, which is more than a minimum standard is, so they'd have effective requirements of the zoning district in terms of landscape by ordinance. On the L requirements we of any sign. So to give you an idea, this is an elevation. Standards of the zoning, the primary method. One other thing, have changed their concept a little, which we're seeing a lot of. Allow people to go up, check. That's where the dual lanes come in. Finds compliance of the development can adequately address any of signage.
Questions for Ben? Ben?
It essentially is, yes. Some comments earlier today about just to cover from providing a center across from each other. The biggest thing here is get out further to the west. They can
speed bumps or any speed restrictions? Yeah, I guess.
I don't know.
You can see all the people in the car wash tram all the time going from the car wash. Also going the other directions, and this would be even easier. Right, okay.
I mean, they bought the whole thing. This will not be there any
That's
longer,
correct.
is that what I okay.
Yep.
Drainage,
Building and starting over, yeah.
okay, that's what I want. Just look at that.
I don't know, Kevin. If
They
you
don't have to.
There's going to be any additional, really no increase in impervious. In fact, the entire property is covered with sewer systems around
Okay.
there.
Just was curious if it was going back in.
And you mentioned side of
Oh, yeah,
just
I'm
south of
sorry.
her.
Thank
thing.
you.
Yeah.
L is tucked back in the required.
Okay. Okay. Come forward, please.
Bill Terry with Y Engineers, 10505 North College Avenue. In every aspect, we're like, so we are actually decreasing. That would be addressed at a, but Southern Brew and Taco Bell would be very as well. So, hopefully, it's going where it is today. The taco goes to the rear behind the quality farm. So, other than that, if there's any
peak hours, how is Lakeshore going to be able to handle that? Is there capacity? Whether it be lunchtime or
rush hours.
okay.
So,
We believe there's capacity on Lakeshore to handle all. Okay.
with Kevin, we've gone through PennDOT, we've had. I'm trying to come up with the best solution.
Site, this has probably had more traffic engineers and making sure that traffic isn't backing, which is why NDOT and myself felt it was important to allow people to quickly. We feel like that if it were to start backing up and then signal timing, if they're that allows us to work as Mr. really on the typically you only sell coffee in the morning and traffic for
I
their
think the
breakfast
generation-
to accomplish this and feel like
Shove the 7 Brew back to probably about behind the burger. Probably never know how to get out of there, but if you're a local folk, you can know how to.
Okay. On this, okay. entertain a motion for the docket 22-32.
Yeah, I would motion on the TAC comments being addressed in the
Second.
Okay, we have a motion.
Yes.
Dan Bayshore. Brian Tandy.
Yes.
Ellie Mullen.
Okay,
Thank you, guys.
Right. Okay, but we're still having trouble.
This microphone, 'cause I know
Right.
when you guys turn to look at each
Two 44, consider voluntary annexation, 34 acres, project side of Interstate 60 between 300 north.
Anybody here that would like to speak for or against this application will have to have time to come up to the microphone and speak. Each person will be given 3 minutes to speak to make sure that wants to. The public hearing will allow them an opportunity just to, between the Planning Commission and the folks speaking, note of them and address them after the public hearing, between staff or applicant and Planning Commission while the public hearing is open. So this is what's considered a super voluntary annexation, and the ring is a recommendation on the zoning of annexation itself. It's not a legally binding decision as to whether that's an appropriate zoning district for annexation. So there's a process and a first reading of the ordinance and then the section. So that, and a quick what we have received in terms of the annexation petition indicates we should be reviewing in terms of the exhibits that are provided by the applicant, but then all. So if they want to pull the screen up, I'll show you the map of the annexation area, and it is spread out a little bit here. So 1.8 before the Common Council consider an ordinance for annexation. The Planning Commission's responsibility is to hold a public hearing and make a recommendation on a zoning classification for the potential annexed territory. That is the only responsibility of the Planning Commission. Annexed territory, I'm probably going to have to zoom in so you can actually kind of see what it says. And so we've got 3 distinct areas you see here. The first is along State Road 32, and the use terms of what that exactly means, but the area here is intended for advanced manufacturing uses. When you kind of get into the center manufacturing users, so they have proposed something that would obviously be differ from the that are a zoning district that differs from that. Concept plan, and I think the intention here is technology. A lot of those and so they have requested, and we have to the general industrial zoning district for closely with the uses that they're proposing for this area. In addition to requesting the general industrial from the required an R&D use that we're reviewing those with them, and by the has proposed and is willing to commit to that list, and we have also gone different things here. Again, as I mentioned, they've submitted for this project LEAP district. And to state and agency tasked with attracting identified Boone County as, and you will see that in terms of this area, there's parts of this area that we didn't really address in that, and I guess I'll walk through this. What we essentially do is that's intended to be developed in the city of Lebanon. Specifically, we identified areas that we expected in a 5-area are indicated as agricultural uses. That being said, as I document, location and type of potential development with a 5 to 10 year time horizon. For areas with significant growth potential, like is anticipated for Boone County, this should adapt as significant opportunities material in Zionsville. The markets in the market that have occurred or to headquarters and research and development serving the northern portion of the annex that are permitted within the ID zoning district, but would be incompatible with the goals of the LEAP district to attract technology-based users. The concept plan and narrative support the request for the general industrial ID zoning district. With that, planning staff has recommended that the Plan Commission recommend the general industrial ID zoning classification to the Common Council for the proposed annexed territory. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions before we turn it over to the applicant.
Okay,
Do I understand that we can admit what comes in?
That's presented to the council, that there would be a list of excluded uses. So for example, if we don't want there to be truck stops or car repair facilities, we'll include that on the list of uses that are not prohibited in this area. So yes, that is absolutely part of this process to make sure, while we do need the general industrial zoning district for some of the specific uses they're trying to attract in this area, there's a list of uses in the ID district we don't expect and don't want or desire to be in this area, either from the applicant's perspective or from the city's perspective. It does not. No, that would specifically be a council, part of the council
That would be a council
process.
part. Okay.
any other questions from the board? Okay, not seeing or hearing any others.
My name is Kent Franzen. I represent this evening are a few representatives of these. That this annexation and the investment and projects that are dependent on its being approved presents the most unique and valuable economic opportunity we have ever had. Admittedly, it will bring some change to our community and will lead to the conversion we have seen with other cities as they grow, including Lebanon. Farms continue to be converted. The economic impact, both locally and statewide, of this project and the other indirect benefits that come with it, Boulevard in general. It will offer better paying. Would welcome. I'm privileged and indirectly who owns 56 distinct acres, who seek their names and the specific parcels are listed in the aerial map that Ben presented. Their consents. The Indiana Economic Development Corporation chaired by Governor Holcomb. New business development. Create new and better paying jobs for current and future residents, college graduates and skilled workers of this. Conditions are met, have been incorporated areas. This process has been initiated by Boone County government or city government. Consent to be objection of an owner. Under the law, has been the Commission's only role in the annexation process is to make an informed recommendation should be if it's annexed into the city. This, whether this land or any land should be annexed, once the annexation is approved, assuming it is, intimately engaged plans for every acre of land that would be proposed to be developed. Establishing a agri-sign. In doing so, the state, like those along our interstate highways, Indiana has plenty of other places to put those businesses. To put it bluntly, the state is not interested in investing in your typical business park. This park will look nothing like the Lebanon Business Park or any other park in Indiana. The goal of the LEAP district is to exclusively attract large national skilled investments in long-term sites. The state has identified a 1,400-acre area north and west of Lebanon on both sides of the interstate research and innovation district. With the same map, just with different colors. You can see there's 3 distinct areas, and then 2, and there's a lot of is simply not usable. And they're going to on those 600 acres. Now, putting 1 million square Lebanon Business Park that are roughly 1,600,000 acres. They want room for potential for their corporate campus. Visions for this project. They can't have anything near them. They can't because of buildings jammed up against some other big building on big parcels of land. Then, does this with Google Earth pictures of the this is the northeast area we'll call.
And can you talk into the microphone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
This is 150 west. North and south from 300 up to. This area is largely, you can look at bare. If you go again, it's even more bare. Very little down there. There's a lot of bottom. There's a lot of things attractive about it, but one of the sites, it dispossesses a small number of people. Out of the Indianapolis metropolitan area. Dozens, if not hundreds of homes. So why is the state doing high-tech and central Indiana? And it's in our collective interest the land enough sites. The site is located between the pharmacy programs of Purdue area. The area will be served by a new intersection, one that NDOT has been planning for years. Will result regardless and if it does, the new thriving community with employers and employees. Indiana's there's about 10,000 linear limits, and the limitation of this size. Drawing which outlines the state's why general industrial. Although we seek industrial prohibit many of steel mills ID zoning district are not going to go here. They're research and development headquarters. ID unless we exclude them and these commitments would be binding on the first phase is to be owned, not only pharmaceutical manufacturing and affiliated offices. Lilly, that's $1 billion. 5 years. And that does not include the cost structure improvements that will serve the campus. About anywhere. The value of its endorsement is immeasurable. Over the years, I've been doing this long, opposed to development, which, and provide employee training. And provide job security and grandchildren. Companies who are engaged and that will attract more. Well, if that's your, then this is our chance. Pharmaceuticals. There are chemicals and manufacture these sorts of, and this sort of, these microchip companies, they need zoning that will allow other anticipated users and the rest of the are likely to be similarly engaged in zoning. Component companies are.
Anyone on the board have questions? Okay, have anyone else who'd like to speak? Speak. Podium, you give your name and address too.
Notwithstanding, there are other property owners in this area who will be impacted by this project.
Excuse me just a minute, I need your name and your address.
Aggie, 2005 West, 250 North, Hazel Rig Road, Lebanon.
Thank you.
I lost my train of thought. That's dangerous for me.
Sorry about that.
As you look at your responsibilities, and I urge you to look at this very carefully at how you do this rezoning, to zone the entire project, development plans that address have been discussed in broad conceptual terms project, which I think is another reason anywhere else other than a couple large components classifications project that maybe don't get commonly used and it may not be as beneficial to Boone County. I want you to think about this, very zone this for the use.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Douglas, and we are representing the Boone County Preservation Group. And again, I want to make sure that you guys are. We are just for this. Industrial zoning is concerning. I think land is called barren or vacant. Most productive way for it. Again, you can't just go from farm ground to industrial back to our people's home. As an adult, I have been coming to Boone County since I was a teenager, and I chose value. Not take this zoning question lightly. This questions don't stick around for generations, but that can just be general industrial use. That opens up to, they want these things and they don't want other things. This is all speculative. When it has that broad and it's empty comprehensive plan that has now been trivial from that experience and from what's happened in White. Again, this is not empty land. This is not land that Like when they did the Research Triangle in North Carolina, that, but it's beautiful. They did a great job, but it wasn't farm ground to begin. Group see us as an advocate. We have a good source of reliable information. Responsibly and not quickly. For that, General.
Can you pull it down there? There you go. Please.
My name is Corbin James Burnett. And we live on Whit Road. And I'm going to be in 2nd grade. I live right next to the development area. We do not want this to happen. And I want to protect the farmland in Boone County. All of you, so I think we should protect. Surrounded by metal buildings, or they would have moved to the city. We'll be sad if you let this happen. Our time playing outside with all of our animals quiet watching the sunset will be over. We will be like the city, and we don't want to be like the city. The kids of the ask that you protect us and all of our future, and we do not want this to happen. We ask.
My name is 4520 West 3. Sorry, very nervous. First of all, there was a statement in that presentation that kind of that I thought would. Then why not here? Why not here? I've heard the mayor's Mayor Gentry is saying things like, overwhelming support for this project. And I run in different circles. He's being the mayor of Lebanon, and me just being a property owner over there by Hazel Rig, At the meetings, then the petitions came that I've been witness to. Consider that 1 acre plots of land and raise are going to drastically affect. Of course, you know that. Not what overwhelming support of the project looks like, and certainly another not allow. So we can.
Anybody else wants to give you time, they got to come and speak.
They can come and read. I'll talk really fast, and I'm very nervous, so. Just 15 years in Lebanon. We're not folks with a lot of money and power. Lucky to live where we do. The taxes. Jim was brought up in a house that high school. His family lived across the street from mine in Illinois. The street. His parents originally came from Indian Share, and they brought born like with that in their blood, like a lot of people are. Community, and it was really, it was really nice to have that kind of sense of. From Chicagoland, they moved here to Lebanon. House just south of 47, just down the elevator, and Andrew was there at the bottom. And we know him, right? And so he cared about it. He cared about us, and happen in every community. Memorial Park. It has a plaque with his name at this park, sorry. I want to talk about the Christmas parade. Jim started that. Jim and that's where it started. And he's participated every you want. Trick-or-treating on North Meridian. Oh, actually, I've seen some of you on North Meridian House. You might think that's good or bad, but you know, we had fog machines. It's Jim's favorite holiday. It's a sense of community, right? When we first moved here, we gave out full-size. By the time we left, after 15 years, we would give out 1,000 candy. My gist is that the other point is there is no information anywhere that anyone wants this. Big old fat zero, and this is huge, hugely affecting our community. We will not have that community. I lived outside Chicago. That town went from 40,000 to 150,000 in 40 years. I know what that looks like. We will not have the community we have now. We just won't.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Britt Reese, and I live at 6519 North, 350 West, Thorntown, Indiana. So I would like to bring to the Commission's attention semantics and the use of language in this annexation. Indiana Code 36-4-3-5.1 petitions signed by 100% that is substantially similar to the used in the Indiana Code indicates actions by the landowners. They are circulating a petition as well as doing the actions of petitioning. It is inferring they are doing it voluntarily, but the word voluntary is not used here. Instead, verbiage is included that demonstrates landowners taking the action. The language in this annexation petition does not reflect action by the landowners, as indicated in Indiana Code. The language used in this petition is asking for consent. We heard that a little earlier. Consent to annex into the city of Lebanon. Consent to annex and petition for annexing are two very different things. The definition of consent as a noun is compliance in or is the Indiana Economic Development Corp. This is further the petitioner has requested a zoning classification of general industry for the annexation territory. Petitioner in this case refers to the IEDC. Now back to the Indiana Code. As stated, the landowners. All evidence clear that they don't respect us.
If so, come forward.
Darren McGovern. I have a hard time sitting here and listening. You're highly recommended to do something. I'm here to give my own heart story. Where we live at now. Am I playing on? But apparently farmland is anymore. Farmland is the most renewable resource. Environmental impact. You're going to have farmland and it's happened. I really urge for some it's more than just happening. Some of us are still building. you guys can possibly look at this even deeper.
Good evening. My name is Harley Barta, and I State Road 47 in Thorntown. I'm an educator. I was an educator at a different school system at this time. Keep saying we're going to attract all these wonderful colleges, but our kids, they're not staying for that. Warsaw, Indiana. So what's magic about this one Lily and save all of these? Like, has anybody gone and talked to college kids? Hey, if we build this facility, what would it take? What kind of salaries would it take? They're the ones we should be asking, right? If you're wanting, do they even want to work? Facility is not going to fix the brain drain in India. Do what they want, and we have to. Unless we've actually talked to those people.
Lebanon. On his Building Indiana business, this is the first paragraph, and I would like the percentage of U.S. companies that make it to 100 years mark source for accurate data on this topic. We know that only 36% of the companies make it, and the U.S. Census Bureau report, 12% of the companies make it to 26 years. I also have a report on the S&P 500 companies. This is the chart. This is done by D. Clark in 20 of 21. And this indicated that declining longevity with 20s. This report said, so what I am indicating is that 6 years. Farm grounds, they get tax abatements. That's very clear cut. Farm ground, if we don't screw it up, will be here for many, many generations. There is scientific evidence that along the Chesapeake Bay, Hula Farms has been farming, or there's been some ground that has been in production ag of some kind since 1609. That's 613 years. How many are going to last 50 years? How many are going to last 100 years? And then what are we going to do? So I'll leave this so you can.
But 1730 dead end road station when they had the three colors up there. And I'll tell you right now, I really didn't want to see a semi-repair place or a junkyard or many warehouses. People have said we're not going to here with the cash and like I said, we've lived here almost 10 years now and enjoyed every minute of it. So that's basically all I've got to say about is would just be
I'm Diana Freeman.
Could you pull the microphone down, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I ask that question a lot. I'm Diana Freeman. I live at 8440 North, Thorntown. That's rural Mechanicsburg, Washington Township. My comments will to the issues that concern me. I was born a farmer's daughter, granddaughter, niece, currently have a brother-in-law farming. I cherish the rural lifestyle and the lives that the project can bring to this. I know it's a difficult decision for you to make, but you do have a choice. And I ask you to choose to protect our farmland. Thank you.
My name's Tom Barta, live at 10680 West State Road 47, Thorntown, Indiana. I have two topics tonight. Council earlier spoke about Lilly moving in and being a chemical manufacturer. What factors when this development or the zoning is approved? Because those are your two main constituents that you are supposed to represent. So I hope you consider those two factors. Lebanon Schools is downwind and Western Boone is down the drainage. So please consider those two things. Secondly, these high-paying jobs. I'm going to speak from experience. For several Fortune 500 companies in the area, Pearson Education, if you recall. At a senior level, I can tell you, paying job. So if that's the expectation, please consider that and figure it out.
So I'm Jean Lebanon. I used to work for Eli Lilly. I worked for them for about 7 years. And me and some of my friends would commute to Lilly, every day. I can tell you, I was one of the lucky ones to actually be hired of Eli Lilly. My friends, all of them that I used to, Lilly has a very respectful name, Lilly. So, and I did enjoy my work there, and it was sad to leave. But just like so many of my friends, I was reallocated to the point I was forced out of a job because they wanted contract employees where they didn't have to pay quite my salary. So, and I had many positions while I was there in various departments. On another level, my husband and I just we moved out to 150 West just 3 years ago. And we built a beautiful home that we thought we were going to retire in. In fact, my husband did the rumor mill, given some information instead at one point, but the person who knows what's going on, folks on home, I don't know. I can't even enjoy it. I wanted to speak up and let you hear from our perspective, how this is.
Experience with the city. By Lebanon in 2008. That's that area, when it was annexed, it was put in place that it's R1, residential 1. For residential. Been on ground that is zoned grants. You can have an industrial facility right. The city of Lebanon facility that's going to use when the annexation, my main concern is about Lebanon moving on with this, which is we're never going to get any out my front door that's ever sell out to a developer before that can happen. Don't be that my well will go down. Sucking water out of the well. Build there with a septic tank and a septic system. The zoning laws mean
my name is Rick Carter. I live just south of Hazel Rig on 500 West, and I lived contiguous to did annex that piece of land there. The current city limits then. We actually took it to task and seat on the TAC committee, which is effectively worthless because by then all the decisions have been made. Nevertheless, we said, you know what? We're just going to move. We're just going to sell out. And that land still sits vacant, by the way. It never got developed. Now, was that because of the person bought that property? I told my wife, we'll never see this again. And guess what? Right? That paves the way for contiguous Lebanon to move westward. And the mayor's office themselves. $10,000 development, right? $5,000 an acre, and people are, wouldn't you sign up for that? Yeah, absolutely. That to homeowners with smaller properties, they're going to take a hit. They're either life and stay, or they're right. So let's just say the state is spending acres. That's $385 million. Listen, $385 million, right? IEDC spending that money, right? What's our economy doing right now? Is this where we need to be spending? Who's going to regulate wastewater output, right? Irrigation, DuPont, contaminating soils. Is going to regulate this. Really? We don't rezone and give them the potential and the incumbent upon everyone right now. Please slow.
Okay, is there anyone else?
West Thorntown, and I'm not a fan of farmland exploitation. I'm a a sixth-generation Boone County resident. My third great-grandfather was one of the original settlers here. It was that we were a family that took care of the land. We identified with it. We loved it. We took care of it. And those are the green from today. We have an identification with this as a location that's so dramatic. If you want to see what that's like, you can drive through any city in the country and see what urban sprawl has done to the vacation with the location and And I'll also indicate that I worked in the biotechnology industry for a while in medical science research. I won't mention the name of the company in Indianapolis, but I will tell you there was a lot of radioactive material that was dumped in creeks and waterways, and that wasn't the protocol, but it was done because it was easy and a fast way to just get back to work. I can see that happening about really anywhere. Really, that's about all I have to say. I'm opposed to what you're talking about. I think it will change the demographic and the way of life here forever, and it'll be a shame because people don't move here because they want to live in another suburb. They want to live here because of the quality of life that we've had for generations. Thanks.
Okay, so I'm Annalise Heine. Those are my parents back there. I live at 4520 West 300 North. It's near Hazelrig. And I'm 16. I'm going to be a junior next year at Western Boone. And I can say, I've lived here my entire life in Lebanon. And when I get older, I hope to retire on the land my parents own and with my brother. And I hope our kids will be able to keep that land as well. And, just talking at school, a lot of people who don't live on this land will be affected greatly because their parents, sell seeds not seeds, but feed, or they repair machines for the properties, tractors. So it's not just affecting the people that live near it, it's affecting pretty much everyone at Western Boone that I talk to. And I live 2 doors down, so that's quite a ways. But from fifth-generation farmers that I ride the bus with, and just hearing them talk about it, it's not something they want, and they don't know what they would do if they did end up moving because that's what they've been raised to do. That's what they've always learned, and they have a ton of land and would make a ton of money. They've been approached multiple times, but they've decided they want to stay here because this is their home and this is all they've ever known. Like I said, I hope to live here when I'm older and I hope to pass it on and I hope my children will also want to pass it on. But that can't happen if this continues. Either I will be living somewhere else because we will either not get an option or we'll get not a great option to move. So, kind of sucks, but that's okay. So that's all I have to say, I guess.
Anyone else wanting to talk?
Hi, Commissioner, board members. Thank you for being here and for listening to everyone. As you can tell, my name is Joyce Douglas, 409 North Meridian, Lebanon. I don't live in the affected area, but it affects everyone that lives in Lebanon and in this community. This is a life-changing decision you have to make, and I want you to take it seriously, and I know you do, from everyone that has spoken. The comprehensive plan is something that you adhere to, as well as our Boone County comprehensive plan. They adhere to that. And in that comprehensive plan talks about agriculture and farming. Development is not recommended in existing agriculture areas, and the ability to continue it. These former mayors and administrative boards and commissions used to say 10 years. So I'd like,
Your time is up.
okay, I thank you. I really thank you and appreciate your time.
Forward.
Views on the subject. I think there are just a few observations. Somebody talked about, I think it was Mr. Dagny, talked about private property rights to convert land. Later stage in the proceeding. We can't even start that process without this land being in the city of Lebanon. Buffering process to have it. I think that the transparent, but there will be plenty of in an annexation that could lead to a project on the property. That is this. Well, I'm looking at the petition. It's called Landowners Petition. The petition. It says they want their land annexed into the city. I don't think the Indiana Economic Development Corporation is even in here at any point. It is purely voluntary. No one was forced. You look at the drawing, there are some boxes where the land is not being annexed. Those people will exercise their right not to participate. But it was voluntary by those who chose to. Plan, if it ever gets built, or any of these, and these 500 jobs that are investing in our community and buying homes and settling down here and raising their kids here with the hope that maybe there'll be a job for them. Not everybody that works at Eli Lilly is a college graduate. Mr. Moeller said that these companies won't be around. I don't know how many will be around. I don't know. I know one thing. Eli Lilly's been here since 1876.
Excuse me?
Somebody said the commitments are not binding. It's not our fault to enforce them, as standing to enforce them. We're not putting the small business owners out of business. We're not telling people they can't have a small repair shop. Their land is not going to be taken. And they're continuing to or err, always, but generally, to believe they'll. I don't think about it. That's some people will be. It's the same as when the interstate came through.
And those would be part of the annexation ordinance, which jurisdictions for them, but all. And then, of course, the Lebanon utilities locally will be looking at any sort of things that are discharged to sanitary sewer system and things like that, and they do monitor those things regularly to make sure. So there are a lot of layers of review.
Either one.
How those things. I'm just trying to understand how everything started and how some people were talked to and some people were not talked to. Do you have anything to lighten on that?
I don't know who talked to who said what. I know that the companies, starting with Lilly and perhaps others, hopefully others, can't build anything on somebody else's property. Land that's not been annexed into the city cannot be the site of a development like this. People who've not sold their property have a legal right to make sure there's nobody coming onto their property. There are some who've chosen not to sell, and they have every right to make that decision. There's others that have chosen have not been asked to be annexed. We have some landowners who've sold, but they're not part of this annexation. So I don't know if that answers your question. I know they attempted to get an adequate amount of land to make this project viable, and they have that. They don't have everyone. If you look at the drawing, you can see there's 2 or 3 boxes in the middle of the area to the south that's not included in the annexation, because at the moment those people have not agreed. Now they may yet, but at the moment they're not part of the annexation. Nothing can happen to their property as long as they remain the status quo. So the project, if it moves forward with an annexation and then a development plan, will have to make use of just the land that the state has control of and that Lilly might buy. But the rest of the property would remain free and would not even be subject to city zoning because they would not be in the city. There are parcels of land currently in Lebanon that are not in the city. I mean, they're surrounded by the city, but they've never been annexed. So it's not uncommon. It's not common, but it's not impossible.
Ken?
Yes,
I have a question too. This has to do with the zoning parts. So you're saying you don't want heavy industrial, as in manufacturing, but you actually said Lilly has plans on putting
yes, no, we're not
manufacturing
saying.
down there.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I mean, see, are we talking like an Eli Lilly plant that's sitting up in Lafayette right off the Wabash that may be coming around into here, or are we talking something on a much smaller, lower scale? They told us yet?
I'd like to be able to tell you that I know exactly how Lilly makes the drugs it sells. I don't have that information. And I don't know what they do up in Lafayette on the river. I know that they're a chemical manufacturer. They want to make chemicals on this property, and that requires industrial zoning. When I say we don't want typical industrial zoning, what I mean is we don't want steel mills, petroleum plants, landfills, truck stops, a variety of things that are permitted in the industrial zone district. We don't want our multi-million-dollar office complex to have a steel mill next door, and we're certainly not going to sell it to anybody who would put it there.
I mean, have you looked in detail at our zoning?
I have looked at it, sure.
Say, I'm looking at this and I'm going, I got 27 other things that I really would desire not to be out there on top of the list you've already given. And most of the ones in the list you've given are already conditional uses. There's only 2 of them that are on the permitted uses. I'm going, you're still leaving a lot of it wide open.
Well, it's a work in progress. I think my clients are willing, and there'll be more opportunities for further commitments. As part of a development plan, we could agree certain things cannot occur on the property. So I get it. There's industrial uses that are not on our list of excluded uses, but they have no interest in putting them out there. And I think we can, I think as long as Lilly and the advanced manufacturers can do what they want to do and need to do, thought of as industrial, I don't want that either. But
classification of zone is there, how much say do we get in things like Dan says? What type of changes can we make to that zone requirement for future use? Because we have approved things and then they didn't develop.
Right.
What are the...
Well, I think that there's the excluded uses list is still a work in progress. We're reviewing it as well too, and that'll become part of the annexation ordinance that the council considers. So, I mean, I would certainly suggest if there are
I can't hear you.
If there are items that the Plan Commission doesn't desire to be there, we need to understand that from you as well, so we can make sure to include those. And there are certainly things that the city doesn't want to see out there as well. We don't want this to be another Lebanon Business Park. There's nothing wrong with the existing business park. We're looking for a higher and better use out here in this development is what we anticipate and what we're hoping to see. In terms of changing it in the future, it comes back through the same public process that we're doing right now. the Plan Commission and Council will need to consider any changes. Again, as I said before, it becomes law, so it has to go back through a very extensive review process for the Plan Commission and Council to make any changes if necessary in the future.
Is the city taking into account, I mean, there's going to be a, just for Lilly as example, I mean, they're going to be a chemical manufacturing plant. There's a lot of environmental issues. We have a certain number of people on staff already to monitor some things, but are we going to have enough to handle this? We don't right now, obviously. But the city's going to have to look at, we're going to have to hire more people.
Yeah.
Just to monitor this kind of park.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what actually the council looks at as part of the fiscal plan. What are the additional expenses or costs associated with doing these things? Looks at whether there's additional hires that are needed, and certainly that goes through all the typical budget process every year. So if Lebanon Utilities looked and said, hey, we're going to have somebody that does this review or an oversight on things like this, and they do have people right now that do that same thing, and obviously are overseeing and reviewing the effluent that's coming into the plant. And actually, a lot of that's automated anymore. If there's something that comes to the plant that's over a certain level, they're automatically notified of those things, and they go looking for the source. But yeah, those are things that part of that fiscal plan. We look at additional costs to the street department, the Lebanon Utilities, fire, police, all those things, because there is additional area that we're going to have to serve. So that fiscal plan looks at what those additional costs would be associated with doing that. So that's very much part of what we're considering as we're looking at additional annexations as part of that fiscal planning process.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. Ben, are you finished?
Yeah, I think maybe there was another question about why would we not do a PUD so we can be more specific. That is something we could still consider. I think the state's open to the idea, but we have to annex first before we can look at a PUD also. But I think that also kind of going to the question of some uses being conditional versus permitted, that we can clear those things up in a PUD ordinance and be much more specific. But again, we got to get the area annexed first before we can go through that PUD process. If that's what needs to happen, that again comes back through the Plan Commission and Council. The direction that's chosen by the applicant. But as again, certainly we'll make sure that we're looking at those excluded uses and making sure we got that list appropriate, because we have ideas of what we think is appropriate there and what's not appropriate there. We just need to make sure that the zoning's in place to do that.
Okay. I think we're probably right then. We're ready to make a motion.
No, that's all for me. Thank you.
Yes, you bet. Thank you.
Unless there's questions.
Yeah. Just again clarifying, so what we're doing tonight, the Plan Commission is offering a recommendation on zoning.
Right.
So we have to recommend a zoning district. If you choose to follow the recommendation that was provided in the staff report, you would recommend for the ID zoning district. You can choose another zoning district if you think that a different one is appropriate, but we do need a recommendation on a zoning district that gets forwarded to the council.
Right. So I would entertain a motion on the ID general industrial.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we recommend that parcels 1 through 16 are ID and 17 through 56 be SF.
I didn't hear that.
1 through 16 be ID and 17 through 56 be SF.
Ben, you have a plat map? I can't seem to get it pulled up on mine, so that's why I'm asking.
I have to zoom in here so I can read it.
So that is roughly everything west of the interstate be ID, and everything east or northeast would be 17 or be SF, to hopefully chase down the PUD. That would be more specific.
So, can you repeat, Brian, again, you said 1 through 16 would be?
Right.
Okay.
Everything west, roughly west or south of the interstate, depending depending on which part of it you're in.
Okay. Yeah, so if you look at, just to make sure everybody understands what the motion is, so parcels 1 through 16 would be everything west of the interstate that you see in this area north up to kind of this area around 300 north on the west side of the interstate only. And then the remaining piece, 17 through whatever would be everything east of the interstate.
Right.
Recommendation then would be for SF for that area.
And just to the commission, like I said, that is in an effort to try to get maybe that PUD to be more specific, and maybe that alleviates some of your concerns, Dan.
Since the PUD would be on the north end,
That's correct.
That way we can make it more specific. I'd second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board? Anyone would like to question that?
Down at the Can we table this?
Yeah, it must be.
We have a motion and a second, so we'll have to vote on it. It can go up or it can go down, either way.
Dan Bayshore?
Yes.
Kevin Krulik?
No.
Yes.
The zoning classification to the common council.
I'll second that.
Would you say that again, Kevin? I'm sorry.
I'm making a motion in a general industrial ID zoning classification to the common council.
John Lastly?
Okay, call
Can I
for
ask
the
one?
vote.
And the thought of that at a later state. If we do this now, we can't change it later.
And that would be another rezoning.
Okay.
Well, not the same process. Tonight, we are just making a separate petition would have to come back here for a rezoning application that would also have a hearing here.
Modify it during their session, correct?
The council would have the ability, considering the annexation ordinance, they could follow that, they could throw it out, do something different, zoning and approve annexation ordinances. I think I'm correct in that assessment. Ben, did you have anything to add?
Maybe just clarify your question, Ashley, if we need.
I was confused at a statement you made on the planned business unit. You talked about the Kevin Krulik?
Yes.
Keith Campbell?
Yes.
Yes. Bryant Tandy?
No.
Lori Gross?
Yes.
Ally Mullen?
No.
So we've got a recommendation from the Plan Commission for the general industrial zoning classification for the entire annexed territory. That will be. We have a recommendation for general, it's Monday evening. It'll be part of the annexation ordinance that will be considered by the council, the recommendation for the general industrial classification. So there will also be a public hearing at the council meeting next Monday evening, and that's at 7:15. So that will be the second step in this process, would be the second Monday in July. That will be when they would consider the fiscal plan that addresses some of those costs that Mr. Bayshore brought up.